Um, I just want to thank everybody for attending today. My name is Timothy Sturgeon. I'm at MIT's Industrial Performance Center. In my research, I look at global industries and global value chains in several, specializing in several industries, various ICT industries, including services, also automotive and medical devices, and many other sectors that I've looked at over the years, how they've globalized and how they tie, how companies tie activities together over great spaces, different types of activities, including manufacturing, R&D, et cetera. So today, I'm going to be giving some remarks about the Ukraine's IT services industry, which has been a very important industry for Ukraine. I'm going to talk about globalization in general, um, and just and why IT how IT services offshoring, how that works, and everything that you see on the screen here. I won't go through it, but after about 20 minutes, 25 minutes, I'm going to turn it over to Olga Shaprova, who is kindly agreed to tell us some more details about Ukraine's IT services industry from her position in the Kharkiv IT cluster, managing that cluster. So, okay, so and at that point, I think that what I'd like to do, and Olga and I have talked about this, is really to engage in a discussion with her, ask her questions such as what you're seeing on the screen here. And she may share some slides as well. Okay. Is everybody seeing the screen? Is everything looking okay? Yes? Olga? Okay, good. I mean, we've been doing this for since 2020, and we still not sure it works. So I just want to talk a little bit about globalization in general, how it's changed over the millennium, really, from antiquity and the Silk Road and trading wool for wine. We're really just talking about imports and exports, and what was driving that was really comparative advantage, mainly based on natural endowments. From the early 20th century and even before, we saw the rise of multinational companies. So this is foreign direct investment, FDI, both outward and inward perspectives you can take on that. The Ford Model T, for example, in the early 20th century was actually assembled in 27 countries. So this was really to achieve some transport efficiencies, like packing, instead of shipping fully assembled cars, packing kits of cars and shipping them overseas. But then the policy response to that was, well, let's make more of those parts in Australia or Argentina or whatever. And we saw many policies for local content requirements. So you need to make the wheels here or the batteries or whatever it is. So that was the policy response to that. You can't really have it, just to go back to comparative advantage, can't really have much of a policy response to natural endowments because they're sort of fixed. But then, again, with some pioneering work and activity in the 80s, but accelerating in the 1990s, and especially after 2001, when two things happened. There was a push towards services offshoring, with the lead up to the Y2K adapting systems to that. There was a push, and India came online. But even more important than that was China joining the WTO in 2001. So what we see there is a much different structure, a more complex structure, where you have vertical specialization. In other words, if you look at the value chain as a vertical series of processes, places became specialized in different parts of the value chain: design and manufacturing. I mean design and marketing on one hand, manufacturing on the other, as the most general way. So then you have, to drive that, you have vertical specialization in FDI. So suppliers down the supply chain, doing certain products and inputs to final goods, they also became global and set up shop around the world. But the trade and services, which I've already mentioned, is sort of the focus today. So software coding, particularly beginning in India, but also in Ukraine, and moving into other ICT-enabled services, BPO, business process outsourcing, and then even more recently, the move to really the fragmentation of knowledge and innovation networks. So they see the global fragmentation of R&D, even in some cases, and various kinds of knowledge work. So here, in terms of the policy response, there's really fewer tools to kind of adapt to this. So policymakers have had to kind of understand these systems more deeply and respond in a much more targeted way to targeting particular parts of the value chain and then trying to upgrade from there. And it's a difficult process. It definitely does take place over time. But what we've seen overall is a move from fixed comparative advantage to dynamic comparative advantage, where you can actually move the needle in terms of what your capabilities are. So, and then, again, as I just mentioned, you go from, hold on, let me move this on my screen here. So what I mean by flying geese is the idea that you have, industries move from basic industries to more high-tech industries over time. This flying geese metaphor came out of Japan, where, they were kind of letting old industries go to new places and then focusing on more high-tech industries. That kind of idea of a product cycle or moving through a natural process of industrial upgrading has become more complicated as well, where you can specialize in certain parts of the value chain. So that's the overall story of kind of global value chains over time. So in services offshoring, it's really been driven by falling prices for voice and data communications with the globalization of data and voice communication networks and the computerization of work. And that's really been going on since the 1960s, where work process has become computerized. And today we call that digital transformation. And I see it as kind of more of the same in a sense, that computerization and automation and kind of data-driven processes have been kind of increasing over time in a steady state. But I think that there are some legitimate differences with digital transformation, with kind of cloud and AI and all of the advanced kind of data-driven processes that are coming on stream now. But there is a process where companies around the world, from small companies to big companies and governments and all types of institutions, have had to walk this path of digital transformation. And services, IT services, are really kind of helping companies do that. And because these new tools are computerized, there are ways to segment the work and actually relocate it, and to take advantage of, in many cases, remote pools of lower cost, but also high quality workforce. So over time, IT services trade has evolved. I mean, by trade, you're not moving anything except for bits and bytes and bits, but you're actually sending work over across borders. So it's evolved from basic software coding and call centers to more complex, helping companies with more complex business processes. And we talked that overall, from business process outsourcing to knowledge process outsourcing. Some people talk about it that way. So an example coming out of Ukraine is a company called EPAM, was founded in 1993 by two engineers from Belarus. Today employs 53,000 people with offices in 55 countries. It's moved from software engineering services to all types of IT consulting, strategy, cybersecurity, AI, analytics, cloud migration. All of these things here are what we talk about when we talk about digital transformation. So there's some special characteristics of this industry. Is that one is that the service providers that are providing these IT services can contribute to the modernization and are contributing to the modernization of domestic institutions, and I think that's really important in the context of this academy, because we're talking about rebuilding in Ukraine after the war. And there's an opportunity, with a lot of destruction, to rebuild and to rebuild differently. And I think in terms of the built environment, the historic pattern has been after big fires or wars, is that people want to get up and running as quickly as possible. And things tend to get rebuilt exactly in the same way that they were. And that's crushing to city and regional planners who have grand designs to change things. But I think with IT services, that's different. You can have the same buildings and streets, and I do hope Ukraine can take advantage of the opportunity to rebuild in a better way. But I think there's no way you're going to rebuild business processes and systems, based on paper and pen or simple spreadsheets. It's just that's not how these tools work anymore. So I think there will be a modernization process, and I do think that the IT services strength of the IT services industry in Ukraine, and Olga will tell us about that, about the overall footprint and how powerful that sector is in the country. I think that sector can have a strong role in modernizing Ukraine's domestic institutions. The thing is, another thing about IT services is that because it's not capital intensive, participating in these global value chains can happen very quickly. You're not building big factories that take a long time to build, and then once they're in place, are very sticky. But to do that, you have to have good human resources, right? So the key input here is good human resources. And in this sector, we're talking about English proficiency and high technical proficiency. However, the flexibility and the fluidity of this sector also means that that you can also kind of lose. In other words, the business can shift from one place to the next. I think good human resources are very sticky, but if there are other places that have either lower costs and also very good human resources, there's nothing really holding the industry in one place like a giant factory. So you can have rapid geographic substitution. And I think in the context of in the war in Ukraine, this was actually a good thing, right? Because a lot of engineers could be relocated out of the country or from the west to east and set up and begin working very, very quickly. So I'm going to get into the weeds I'm trying to move through this very quickly here. So if we're going to look at rebuilding or just focusing on the ICT services industry in Ukraine, the question is, how do we measure it? How do we know that that Ukraine has rebounded or is growing or shrinking, or how do we even know? How do we measure digital services trade? And there's the GATS framework for looking at trade overall has 4 modes. One is what we're talking about here, digital services, cross-border. But the problem is that this mode also includes shipping and transport services. So it's a little bit of a mixed bag there. But then you can also have consumption abroad, right? It's services when someone travels to another country to consume tourism. Companies can set up a commercial presence in another country. And then there's the movement of people. So where you can send someone offshore to do services work offshore and then bring them back. The unfortunate word that came up in the context of India was body shopping. But there's people who saying there's another type of services, which is services embedded in goods. So you have software preloaded on hardware, for example. So these are the big categories. Ukraine has mainly engaged in mode 1 and mode 4. Okay, so cross-border delivery of services, and also moving people. So we're going to look here. This also to say another complicating factor is that mode one services trade, the cross-border trade of digital services, can be from multinational firms, the affiliates of multinationals, and there's plenty of those, particularly in India, where companies have their own affiliates doing back office work and a lot of different processes in India, or it can be homegrown firms. In Ukraine, it's mainly been homegrown firms. It's not a big location for affiliates of multinationals to do services work. An example is this unicorn, for example, GitLab, founded in 2014. It's currently valued at $6 billion, and it just recently hooked up with to integrate its functionality of one of its products with Amazon Web Services software automation platform. So this is a very successful company that has grown very, very quickly. It has 3,300 employees and working in 60 different countries. And Olga again can tell us more about the whole industry. So this is really getting into the weeds, but I want to show you this is kind of like how this work is done. In other words, how do you measure? How do you actually go in and pull out data, which I did for this presentation, to look at services trade? Well, here's the EBOPS, which is the balance of payments system, and I won't go into that detail, but how the data is produced is kind of bizarre. It's basically central banks balancing the payments, and then they assign the flows of money to different services different services categories, as you see here. So these are just two of the major categories. But you see there's a lot of stuff mixed together here. So let's go in and pull out the categories that are appropriate for IT services. So here, 9.2 computer services, that's pretty obvious. And what isn't is underneath that is information like news services. We're not really going to be interested in that so much. And then there's a huge category of other business services. I hate other categories because it's a big wastebasket full of things, of other things. But here's R&D over here, 10.1.1. So this is, I love the way they phrase this, work undertaken on a systematic basis to increase the stock of knowledge. It's kind of poetic, but we're talking about customized and non-customized R&D services. So let's pull that out. And then let's look at these kind of management consulting services, accounting, legal. These are all can be ICT enabled, and pull out 10.2.1, and then look at other kind of technical services, architecture, engineering, scientific services, which are also can be traded across border in a digital form. So here's our definition for today: is computer services. I have a little shorthand: computer services, R&D services, professional services, and technical services. Okay. So we have these four. I went into UN Comtrade and I pulled out all the data they had on this for Ukraine. And you can see that in 2013, 46% of the cross-border trade with the world was for computer services, so basically software. But there was a significant share of exports of services, of IT-enabled services that were in these other categories: R&D, professional, and technical. But by 2021, the share of software and computer services is up to 73%. And the whole pie grew, but it's really has squeezed out R&D in particular, which is a small segment, which did not grow as much. And I think that the way I interpret this is, I think any country is going to have some mix of these ICT-enabled services trade. There'll be some, there'll be some trade in this. So you'll see a more balanced portfolio. What we see here is this explosion of Ukraine's ICT services exports, particularly in computer and software. Okay, so let's take a look at India. Okay, so India, the pie is much, much bigger. Let's go back. So we're going from 2 billion to 4.3 billion in between 2013 and 2021. And in India, we're talking about 100 billion to 212 billion in that period. So just dwarfs, I mean, Ukraine is sort of a rounding error here. But anyway, the mix is interesting that the mix has stayed more stable, and actually these other service areas have grown. And just to say, professional services is not tracked, is not reported by India. So there wasn't any data on that. Okay, so now let's look at export partners from Ukraine. This is interesting, obviously. In 2013, 37% of ICT services exports from Ukraine were to Russia. By 2021, it's down to 6%. And the US as a trading partner went from 21 to 50%. The EU stayed about the same as a percentage, although it grew at about 40 to 44%. So the US really stepped in as a trading partner with Ukraine. So that's the story there. And then just to finish up on overall growth, here's India from 100 million to I'm sorry, 100 billion to 243 billion, and with an increasing rate of change as you go forward in time. In Ukraine, there was a dip after 2013, and then very rapid growth thereafter with some irregularities on a year-by-year basis. So the invasion of Crimea happened here, and I'm just speculating that that was this transition out of Russia, and then with the rapid growth, you have the U.S. Stepping in. That's the story that I can tell myself. There, I would have to do a lot more work to prove that to myself or to anyone else. But that's my first take. Now the data ends in 2021, right? So that's before the full invasion by Russia. So what's going to happen afterwards? I mean, what does do things continue to grow? Do they flatten out? Do they go down? What is the response after the war or during the war? I'm sorry. And then how would we? I think the reason I want to show all this detail about how you actually do this work, how you pull the data out of Comtrade, the UN Comtrade data set, which was freely available. How do you define IT services? Because we want to look going forward at what happened here and have a way to track it. Okay, so the measurement issues, though, the definitions of IT-enabled services, they may vary from different folks who are looking at this. The accuracy and timeliness are questionable. I don't know if you noticed, but back when I was looking at export partners, that was only 58% of trade. 42% of the IT services export flows out of Ukraine. We don't know who they were, where they were going, because they're not reported. Again, we're going back to the way that this data is created. The data also, it stops at 2021. Some countries have 2022 data. And it may not be related to the war where Ukraine stopped reporting, but I don't think so. There's lots of countries that stop at 2021 right now. So we don't know what's happening since then. That's a pretty long gap. And also mode 4, going back to the movement of people, I mean, that's not measured by this at all. So in the past, the weakness of services trade data, when everybody wanted to know what was happening in India, NASSCOM, the industry association, stepped in and provided its own data. And that led to a lot of controversy because it's not kind of quote unquote official statistics that are necessarily objective. And India has done a lot of work on improving its reporting of services trade since then. And there's ongoing effort in the statistical community to improve data, particularly on mode 1. And there's actually a definition that I helped develop with UNCTAD called, potentially ICT enabled services. So these are things that might be traded remotely through digital means, and that's been approved. But the problem is, again, because the way the data is produced through this EBOPS, clearing financial balancing system, balance of payments. To do this, you would actually have to implement new surveys, and that's very, very expensive. Okay, so all of that really, increases the importance of actually doing desk and field research. In other words, how do we really find out? We have to kind of, dig in and go and visit places and talk to people like Olga. So as a kind of, example of that, I'm going to have a discussion with Olga right now in real time to try to pull out information that's relevant. These are the things that I'm interested in. Olga has things I'm sure she wants to communicate. But how did it get started, and what's happened, what was happening before the invasion of Crimea, and also particularly before 2022, what's happened since, and what are the opportunities and challenges, and how can the industry help Ukraine rebuild? All right, so I'll stop talking and hand it over to Olga. Olga, hello. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Hi, Timothy. Hi to everybody. It's a big honor for me to be here today.
How did the IT
Ольга, розкажи
industry in Ukraine get
трохи
started?
про себе для аудиторії. Буду дуже вдячний.
Та, звичайно. Can I share my screen?
Yeah, you can. I was gonna ask.
So I send it request, so please, for organizers, give me opportunity to share my screen. Okay, I have some issue with the sharing. One moment. So for some unknown reason, I cannot share my screen, but any case, let's do it like.
Well, if you want to send me, Olga, if you want to email me the presentation.
Зараз одну хвилину.
Yeah.
Okay, let's start, and maybe I think that maybe Tim will fix it. Okay, so my name is Olga Shapoval. I'm executive director of Kharkiv IT cluster. So I'm from Kharkiv. I am living now in Kharkiv. I came back to Kharkiv last year. So I relocated in 2022 with my kids to Europe, but I came back. And I am like professional manager. So I have been working for businesses as a top manager for more than 15 years. And then 6 years ago, I started to work as an executive director for community, for nonprofit organization, Kharkiv IT Cluster. So Kharkiv IT Cluster, it's idea-based nonprofit organization, which was created by 6 small and medium IT companies from Kharkiv, and which has 0 funding from government, driven by members of cluster, by partners. And we grew up from 6 companies for 10 years. Now we're uniting 600 technology companies from Kharkiv, and not only from Kharkiv, and more than 200 different educational institutions. For example, we are uniting 46 universities from 14 regions of Ukraine. So we're working with communities, and it's a big honor for me today to speak about IT on the platform of MIT. On the platform of MIT, one of the for me, it's the key place who prepared stars for technology industry for all the world. So thank you very much for this opportunity, and it would be honor to share my experience and my view to all questions which Timothy, you mentioned before.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think let's proceed without presentation, and but I will share the presentation after our meeting, and I will share it in English and in Ukrainian in order to give audience to read maybe more information. Timothy,
Yes. Oh,
can we proceed?
oh, okay. Also, if you want to email me
дозволи
the,
надали, тому спробуйте, будь ласка.
if you want to email me the presentation, I can also try that in the meantime. So basically, yeah, how did the IT industry in Ukraine get started?
Yeah. Like let's proceed. I think that let's do not to lose time. Let's proceed
Okay.
without presentation. I think our guests
fine.
can listen us in Ukrainian, so I think that for them it would be. So if I speak about how did the IT services industry in Ukraine get started, so the genesis of Ukrainian's IT service industry is a story of talent meeting opportunity. In the early 2000s, as global demand for IT services surged, so Ukrainian was uniquely positioned to become a significant player due to several key factors, I would like to say. So the first, it was our educational excellence in STEM, in math, in physics, like historically, and if we speak about Kharkiv, historically we are the city, the capital for preparing engineers, mainly for manufacturing. So then we started to prepare software engineers. So Ukraine had a strong educational foundation from Soviet era, with a focus on science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So universities such as, for example, Kyiv Polytechnic University, so Kharkiv National University or Kharkiv Radioelectronic University, produced a steady stream of highly qualified engineers and computer scientists. So the second pillar was abundant talent pool. By the early 2000s, Ukraine had one of the largest population of certified IT professionals in Europe. This talent pool was not only sizable, but also highly skilled in complex problem solving and critical thinking. So it was very important to understand that our people, they were not if we compare to India, for example, of course, you maybe can add your experience or your thoughts about this. But if we compare from the side of Ukraine, so in India they have a lot of ex-farmers who became developers. In Ukraine, we do not have farmers or other professions. We have only skilled people with higher education, with higher degree. 100% of those people that speak English. It's very important. So we did three researches for during last 10 years with PwC and KPMG, and we got this information from their reports that mainly our industry is export oriented. That is why they're those people, they speak English. So the third factor is economic factor. Competitive labor cost made Ukraine an attractive destination for outsourcing, for outstaffing. And companies from United States and Western Europe began to notice the value proposition offered from by Ukrainian IT professionals, like you mentioned, for the models of work. And the next reason was the cultural compatibility. Because if we compare to Asia, Ukrainians, they demonstrated strong alignment with Western business practices and cultural norms, so facilitating smoother cooperation with international clients. So it was very important, and we are very flexible. We were very flexible in building teams. If we compare, for example, with Western Europe culture, so we are very flexible, and
Olga,
entrepreneurial spirit. Yeah.
oh, can I just ask? I'm sorry. I'm just, it makes me think about, India has they've kind of, a lot of people have talked about the 24-hour work cycle. So they're working at night while you were working in the day. And I think that's certainly there's advantages there, but the time difference, just that simple difference, would allow Ukrainian engineers, particularly with Europe, to work in real time. In other words, to solve problems, right away, and as opposed to waiting overnight. And to me, my job is to make up, hypotheses, in other words, possible stories. So maybe that's a reason why the work going on in Ukraine was more at the higher end, at least initially, because they could collaborate in real time. Does that resonate with you at all?
Yes, and I would like to say that our people, they very flexible in working hours. It's also very important, because mainly Ukrainians, for us, we used to work during hours like for East or West, even West Coast. So for us, it was not a problem to work in this time zones, because of course we can work in our time zone, and to add our support, for example, if I speak about support to our clients. But if we speak about the working in the same teams, because we had after COVID, it would be in the next part of the story. But during the COVID, the mixed teams became more and more popular I mean, Ukrainians and other
Right.
client teams.
And I think the mode 4 must help with that too. If you have people on the ground, with your clients, they can actually create a bridge as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and if we speak about milestones, so key milestones was it was several. I would like to say that it was the first booming of outsourcing. It was 2005 when Ukrainian firms began providing software development services to international clients, notable companies like SoftServe or EPAM. So it was that time that IT was not so popular to be IT guy in Ukraine. So that times it was time for engineers, for people who loved their professions, and they were really good in math, and so they started to create a lot of companies, and then it became in formation of IT clusters, not as an organization, but as a clusters, as a not as a cluster management organization, but as a various of different IT companies. It's middle 2000s, like regional IT clusters, for example, Kharkiv cluster or Lviv, Kyiv, and other cities. I think that we will speak about them when we'll speak about footprint, a geographical footprint of the industry. Then in 2010s, it became a switch to higher value added services. Why? Because the salaries started to grow. And I would like to say that last 8 years in Ukrainian IT industry, we saw two key changes. The first change, we have no companies with like pure outsourcing or outstaffing because it's non-profitable model. So they switched to deliver, for example, services or IT consulting. They started to create their value prop for different domains, for example, for fintech or travel tech, and to propose it to different countries in the world. So and the market created 4,500 companies, and for now it's more than 330,000 of IT specialists, of software engineers. And then last 8 years, we saw a startup ecosystem development, like tech startups like Grammarly, GitLab from Kharkiv, from guy from Kharkiv. We met with him in Kharkiv, so he lived in Kharkiv, and he created, and all his team worked remotely. So it's a business which looks like original business, like old stuff business, and unicorns created from Ukraine. It was very exciting stories, like People AI, also founded by Ukrainians and gained international recognition and investments. And also, it's very important things about getting started the ICT industry. It's also a contribution to educational ecosystem from IT businesses. So for last 10 years, ICT business constantly investing in development of curriculum, of development of tech competences of professors and teachers, and we as a cluster invest in a lot of efforts to this. And also we are invested in international collaboration between different universities. And the third pillar in our getting started, it was zero regulation from the very beginning. So industry grown thanks to zero regulations in industry. And the next, it was launching the DSCT project, the special legal framework, tax framework to creating favorable conditions for IT companies, including tax benefits and simplified regulations. We as a Kharkiv IT cluster was a participant of the working group. So we are literally developed the architecture of this system, tax system. And now we are continuing to support it in partnership with our Ministry of Digital Transformation. So now if we compare industry to the very beginning and to now, to this time today, we saw an industry. In the very beginning, we saw several people who were passionate about software engineering and math.
Well, I think that, there's nothing like a unicorn to get people excited. And people, other entrepreneurs, engineers say, wow, they can do it, we can do it. So it really drives things. So that's you've I think gotten us through what the situation was before the February 2022. It is, and if not, please add in. But I want to get to to kind of what was the adaptation in the industry? What has that been during the war?
So if we speak about adaptation, of course, I would like to start maybe from the geographical footprint, because it's very important to understand their geographical footprint of IT industry. So if we will speak about the total industry, so we have top 5 hubs. Like first we have top 3 hubs. It's Kyiv, Kharkiv, Lviv, and they united more than 75% of total industry. Then we add 2 hubs, Dnipro and Odessa, and we got 90% of industry. So 90% of Ukrainian IT industry, they like located in 5 top hub. So of course, Kyiv is the top hub as a capital. It's like the largest and most dynamic IT hub. Like key features of the hub, Kyiv hosted numerous multinational corporations, R&D centers, and development centers. The Kyiv has the most vibrant startup scene, with different accelerators, communities, and a lot of people who are even now coming to get in touch with our startups. Of course, landscape changed also due to creating a special tech, like tech domain as a military tech, defense tech. It's one of the key sectors for Ukraine for the future, I would like to say. And of course, Kyiv it was a place for talent attraction. So many people moved to Kyiv to get their education. So the second hub, it was Kharkiv. It was known as Silicon Valley of Ukraine because of quantity of universities who prepared IT specialists. So if we speak about programs for software engineers, before the war started, it was more than 90 programs, bachelor and master, which prepared IT engineers. So it was programs under our supervision as a cluster. And now under our supervision as a cluster, we have more than 200 bachelor and master programs all over Ukraine. So in 14 regions of Ukraine. So, and it was also very important that IT in Kharkiv, in Kyiv, and other regions influence to local economy a lot. Why? Because due to the very high salaries, up to like 5 times more than average salary, because they are working like IT, especially they working on the global market. So that is why they spend their money in the local economy. And thanks to this, they created in addition 3 job places in local economy, because they are buying services, they are buying apartments, houses, they buying cars. So we also counted this with our partners from PwC and KPMG. So we have this ratio to understand the impact of ICT industry to the regions in which they are situated. The third location is Lviv, like a Western tech capital. And we also, as I mentioned, we have and still have Dnipro, Odessa, and we have other emerging tech centers like Vinnytsia, Ivano-Frankivsk, Chernihiv, but they in those centers they have a very big impact to the local economy, but not so big volumes and not so big ecosystems. So, and if we speak about adaptation, to move to the adaptation.
Yeah.
So since the full-scale war began, the Ukrainian IT industry has demonstrated really remarkable resilience and adaptability. So if we compared Kharkiv IT cluster as the organization, we started to analyze, work with our companies from 6 companies, and then during the war we grew several times because companies, they relocated their specialists, but they joined community to get support, to get services, and to become more resilient. And in communities, in that hubs where communities situated, so where cluster management organizations situated, it was much more resilient business continuity than in other regions. And if we will see, we'll think about and we'll look through the figures to the numbers. So the IT industry, it was the only one industry in Ukraine which grew up in 2022, the only one. And it's grew up like for 10%. And at that time, yeah, when other industries, of course, were not so resilient to the to the aggression and to the aggression impact, I would like to say.
Yeah, I'd be very interested to see those trade data, in a few, when they if Ukraine is continuing to report its statistics on services trade. It'll be interesting. I can't wait to see what you're saying as it's continued to increase, which is so remarkable, really. Go ahead.
So we have, as we speak about numbers, so we have our national bank statistics. We still have it. So we can look through and we can see that now, like during the second and third year of the full scale invasion, we have not so remarkable figures. So we have a small reduction, but still we are doing, if we compare to the other industries, we are doing quite well. And why? It's very important to understand. First of all, our companies and we as a cluster, we were preparing with our community to some invasion, not to the full scale, I would like to say, but we developed business continuity plans.
Right.
We make trainings. Then we support relocation, and it was like a community supported work into 24 hours per 7. And then we counted a number of companies, and there we tracking their location, physical location, and we analyzing so how is their businesses are doing. So in April 2022, 95% of our businesses got back to the normal work. Of course, before they're working from cars, they're working from different shelters, but they continue to work because for working, they only need their laptop and internet. So in Ukraine, even during the full-scale invasion, and even in Kharkiv, we had stable internet connection. And even now, also, I would like to say that all companies, they power their offices with power generation, with different levels of internet connection. In 2022, we helped our companies to launch Starlinks, which we got from Elon Musk. And our Ministry of Digital Transformation transfer those Starlinks. So that is why it helped a lot. So those efforts of communities helped a lot to stay for this very big challenge, let's say, this. Yeah, and it's very important to say that for IT, COVID prepared us for remote work. And when the war began, so we just relocated, we started working as we used to work during the COVID times. Working remotely, working in decentralization, so our teams working everywhere. And also during the COVID, all companies, mainly all companies made cloud migration. So they do not have those physical servers with their a lot of data. So mainly data was on cloud. So, and also companies were very, because they're working for Western market, they were very aware about cybersecurity. and about using different types of instrument to increase cybersecurity level of like in their companies. Also, of course, client relationships helped a lot. So companies, they stay in touch with clients. So they are not like stop their activity saying, oh, sorry, we have a wartime, so we will see you after the
Right.
war. They continue to communicate. They even started to communicate more actively with clients. And it helped a lot. And many clients, they send money even before the work was done. It was a very big help for us. And also many companies, many clients support people in relocation, I mean with money. And it also helped a lot. And of course, like the next years, last year and this year, we now saw a new booming industry. It's defense tech. And it's very important that it's not only, we speak not only about defense, but more about dual use technologies. But even now in Kharkiv IT cluster, we see cases when technologies which developed during the war now used in like for security for European countries or for some civil use in European or countries or in United States. So it's more about creating like dual use technology industry.
Yeah, I think this is a good segue into what the opportunities will be going forward. But I just want to remark, I think this really underlines the kind of special nature of IT services, that you can have an engineer with a laptop, you know, and an internet connection continuing to work and meeting releases. The interview I had with an engineer, that they didn't really miss any releases at all. I mean, they kept working, and that's remarkable. I was doing interviews in Brazil during COVID with manufacturing companies, and these are, you know, plants making, you know, a variety of things. And, you know, it was, you know, they did also adapted, but it was very, very difficult to keep anything going. The only folks that could work at home were administrative people, you know, managers. If you have to stand there on a production line during COVID, you know, the adaptation is very difficult in terms of social distancing, et cetera. So a lot of those companies just really shut down for quite a while. Okay, so yeah, I mean, we're getting a little short of time. I want to leave some room for discussion, but anyway. So, but what about, you know, you talked about dual use, but what do you think the opportunities will be? Where you is the, you know, I think when I talked to you earlier, you mentioned that, you know, 95% of the work was for clients outside of Ukraine, but will there be more work, domestic work going forward? And I think that's really gets to the crux of what we want to talk about today, which is, you know, how can the IT industry help with rebuilding?
Yeah, it's very important question, because let me start from that fact that Ukraine on the way for European integration. So European Union has very precise focus for digital and green transition. So it's very important to understand. So if we speak about Build Back Better, the digitalization would be a key, like a nucleus in this process. And if we speak about like how to do it, so it would be a very helpful instruments which are already here. So the first instrument, it will be the network of European digital innovation hubs. And we as a cluster, we launched last month Eastern Ukraine Digital Innovation Hub. So it will work for east and south of Ukraine as only one hub, which funded by European Union, like halfly funded. But we will help communities We will help businesses, manufacturing, agriculture, energy companies, different companies who provide different facilities for smart cities to make their digital transformation. And why it's very important, because if we speak about recovery period, it presents several opportunities. So first of all, we speak about infrastructure modernization. Unfortunately, we do not have some infrastructure now because they our enemy destroyed it. But now we can build smart infrastructure, implementing IoT sensors, AI analytics for efficient resource management in utilities, transportation, and public services. We can create digital twins, its simulation models to plan and optimize urban development projects. We can launch e-government expansion. We have already our idea, but for local and for municipals, it's very important to be connected with their people, with their citizens who are living on the territory. So digital identity, online public services, it's also a way to rebuild better, and then to be more resilient for communities, to be in touch as a cluster and as IT industry was in touch with each other. So we speak about new healthcare technologies like telemedicine, healthcare, health data management, to make it more inclusive, because we will have a lot of people with disabilities, and we need to provide them with opportunity to get healthcare, to get education, because education technologies, e-learning platforms, skills training, digital skills development, it's also very important to become and integrate to European Union, not to Western world, not as some closed society, but to be as a part of this big family. Also, we speak about agri-tech innovations. We have very big challenge for example, as Kharkiv and Chernihiv, other industries with demining processes. And if we speak about demining, so technology is also a very helpful instrument to make it more efficient. And of course, if we speak about green technologies, renewable technologies, also digital transformation, it's a very helpful instrument in this. Also, digital, it could create transparency for donors, because, for example, in Kharkiv, we developed a special dashboard for donors to give them opportunity to see where the money are going, because many people speaking about corruption when they speak about rebuilding of Ukraine. But many people, digital can be an answer. And transparency, which creates digital solutions, it could help a lot for recovery and rebuilding processes.
Right.
And of course, please.
The IT companies who are in Ukraine were way ahead on that, right? Because they were working for global clients, and that type of transparency was important. And also, some are listed on New York State, New York Stock Exchange, and other exchanges, where transparency was important as well. So they were kind of bringing that mindset already, before the war.
Yeah. And of course, it needs a lot of effort. And of course, such projects as, for example, Eastern Ukraine EDIH, it will help, because this project, which I mentioned, it's a long-term project. So we launched it as minimum for the next 4 years. So it would be, of course, not very easy journey for everybody, especially for cities, for rebuilding, but we will be here to help. And our companies, for them, it's very important to understand that for them, it's not only business, it's their positions, social positions of high social responsibility. Because, for example, our cluster even and many companies, we have our charity foundation. We helped a lot for rebuilding. We help a lot to defend our country. We help a lot for people who are living in different communities, local communities, and suffering from the war. And that is why digitalization, it's really could be an instrument. And also digital companies could be like a nucleus for international projects, because they already used to make business with international companies. And when money will come to international companies, communities as Kharkiv IT cluster, we can be like a people on the ground, finding different partners inside our ecosystem, because we know everybody. And it's very important to say that it's also opportunity for international companies to collaborate more effectively with Ukrainian communities and businesses during rebuilding. So it's very important to understand that doing business internationally, it's not the same as doing business locally. And to do it, we need years. So IT companies already have this experience, and we need to use it during recovery processes.
Well, that's great. Thank you. That's very, very rich. Exciting, kind of given the horrible situation there, to have so much energy coming out of this sector and usefulness for the future. So it's fantastic. I think we should open it up. I have there's a lot of things in the chat, so I would maybe ask Olga to maybe look through that chat and address some of these. I can start with the Ola has written some things in English. You know, one of the is the question about AI. So how will AI affect the potential of the IT sector in Ukraine? And my stock answer in general on AI is that it really kind of reduces the demand for the kind of lower value added work in software coding and automates a lot of that, and it really pushes the folks in the industry up to a higher skill set. So doing architecture and other types of consulting, knowledge-based work, consulting work, which kind of leads to the number 2 question from Ola, which is that so far from in his opinion that Ukraine has been mostly product oriented. I mean, not product oriented, so services. And services, you're kind of working for someone else. Maybe you're not you're learning a lot, but you're not in charge of your own destiny. And a lot of the higher value added, the profits in the value chain historically in all of these sectors are scooped up by the folks who are have the branded products. And so but we did talk about even in the services sector, IT services firms, like EPAM, having kind of branded platforms, or GitLab having branded platforms for software automation. So there does seem to be some moving up the value chain in the industry. One of the things that I've learned in doing my research is that you really have to dig down and find out what's going on, because if you look at any company website, of course, they're doing fantastic things. They're doing like all of these different things. They have all the different products, but when you go and really talk to them, some of these more higher end products it's more aspirational, right? We put it on the website because we want to do it, and when you look at the share of their revenues coming from these leading edge pieces of their business, it's relatively small. What I would say is, I have a skeptical view just as a baseline. But what I've seen over time is that, over a longer period of time, companies do move into higher end, because it's what you talked about. You actually put it in a way that's better. I talk about this strategic external fit. So if you want to develop something in one country, it has particularly for services, it has to fit with demand. But you said what was it? Opportunity, capability meets opportunity, right? So you had capabilities and met the opportunity. Without the opportunity, the capabilities are not going to grow. So I think the opportunity for kind of pushing costs down on knowledge work, if it's possible, are there. But I think it takes a long time. So what do you think about that? What do you think about AI and moving up the value chain to these higher value functions in the IT sector in Ukraine?
Okay, so let's start from AI. AI, it's very interesting that like Kharkiv, it was like a city. We held for 10 years AI conference for all Ukraine. So we doing AI before it, like for many people, AI it's about ChatGPT, you know. But AI it's not only about ChatGPT at all. And when like for on the forum on Davos, it was said that AI and ChatGPT make dumb people dumber and smart people smarter. So it's very important to understand that there is the one unique opinion about how AI will impact. It will impact in any case, but how, we will see, because now we see a lot of people using AI in different directions. We see different models which are developing, but we see also that partly not all tasks some products could be developed faster, but the quality of total development, also very important to understand that you need not only to launch some solution, for example, for your city or for a small community, you need then to support it. And to support it means that you need to communicate with people on the ground, with their problems, with their bugs, with different types of issues. And it's very hard when you have like a very big like quantity of different issues sometimes to manage it with the AI, because it should be like a very specific models to do it. So if I speak about AI, so it could become like a super magic instrument for some part of work. And it did already. But if I speak about so that IT industry will disappear, not yet, no. No, because we had a lot of his legacy, like a code which was created before, and to transfer from one solution to other solution, it's a huge job. Even
Right.
now for Ukraine, we have C1, like so it's a product which created by Russia, but we cannot transfer even our systems from this product if we will speak like really in like be very transparent. So it's a very big job. So at AI, it's not an issue to think that, okay, we'll need only ChatGPT or something like this. No, it's more complicated things. Technology, it's more complicated than just ChatGPT. Yeah, so maybe also
Колеги, я хотів би сказати, що в нас є ще 15 хвилин і в нас є ще ряд питань. Але для себе я хочу запитати, продовжити питання. Воно звучить так: штучний інтелект вирішує частину проблем в IT-індустрії, зокрема кодинг тестування може частково вирішувати. Але я переживаю, що Україна має досить мало продуктових рішень, і ці продуктові рішення у вас є, скажімо, частковими додатками до інших великих продуктових рішень, великих компаній. Як це вплине на економіку України? Наскільки ми можемо відновитися?
Let's speak about products and services. It's very interesting story. It always when we speak, it's like speaking about startups and investments. When you're good in startups or in investments, it's very complex question. And when we speak about products, of course, it's very simple to speak about products in general. But if I speak about why products are not created in Ukraine, like registered, let's say so, because we have Grammarly, we have GitLab, but are they like GitLab, they had investments into Ukraine and paid a lot of taxes to local community from this contract. But mainly due to will of investor products registered outside of Ukraine. And mainly, if as you see the history of creation of different products, they created where we have strong local market. Because to test before scaling, we need market to fit. And in Ukraine, unfortunately, we do not have this market. But in the same time, we do have people, experienced people, 300,000 of experienced people with very high level of expertise, with very high level of fundamental skills. They are very trained and they created additional value services. They created now not only like, they're not just the poor materials. They're creating solutions for their clients, and then that solutions they have more added value. And even now we sometimes have more added value if we speak about numbers for Ukrainian companies in service companies than in Ukrainian product companies. So it depends. It's not like a magic pillar that we will have a lot of products in one time. And the second thing is regulations. It's doing business in Ukraine. And we cannot like change it in one moment. And it's very important to understand, but it's not an issue. And also I would like to mention that many people asked about like what IT industry impact to the community, to the local city. And I would like to say that, of course, we have those big hubs. But we have a lot of people who are living not in big hubs, and we have communities which depend on taxation of 1-2% because it's very big amounts of money. And I would like to say that even now, Ukrainian IT industry, if we speak about revenue, it's a little bit lower than like 3 years ago. But if we, for example, we speak for Kharkiv IT industry paid this year, the first 6 months, we paid 25% more taxes than last year, the same period. So it's very important to understand that we are not changing our people are very, like, they are very dedicated to their locations. And it could help communities to recover if they will have contact with their people. But to have contact with their people, they need to be in touch. They need to be in touch with communities. And also, I would like to say that if we speak about digitalization, I mentioned this European Digital Innovation Hub. It will help not only for big cities. It will help for small communities. We will have like our lunch event on Monday. So you can go to the website of Kharkiv IT cluster, get registered, and you can join and like listen in Ukrainian for how real business will help communities to rebuild, or go and be in person in Kharkiv. So if you like to join, it's very important. Yeah.
What about? I mean, some people are concerned about, are those people paying taxes into the municipality, or not, because they are the companies somewhere else, but they're working maybe in their community. Is there any benefit for that community except for what the people are spending?
So if we speak about benefits of community, also you need to understand that IT specialists is like for Ukraine, it's a middle class. What is the middle class? Middle class demanding higher level of education, higher level of services, and they demanding transparency from local authorities. It's very important to understand that if we have more people like with lower income, they will not be so demanding for the level, for example, of education. And if we speak about communities, we, for example, as a cluster, we help not only Kharkiv, but also help in different communities and working with kids in those communities. And it could be very impactful also for development of communities. And for youth who will see their future, because the key problem for Ukraine, it would be the lack of human resources, the lack of young human resources. They need to see some opportunity, some future. And if they will see that they could get education and then will live in their community. It will be, because we have in Ukraine, we have great examples of very small but very fruitful, like very well-being communities, and people can live there, paying taxes there, but working for global companies. For young people, it's a great opportunity, and for communities, it's a great opportunity to keep their youth or to bring back their youth to the communities. Because in other case, if you will not develop ecosystem, and IT business also, we are focusing for example, with a cluster with 10 years for our own money, develop an ecosystem for businesses, which includes not only like education development or promotion, international collaboration, but working a lot with local authorities, working a lot with different charity projects, and of course paying taxes. So it's like a more vibrant international vibe, I would say, and it gets a lot of future vision for the next generation.
I think that's so important. I mean, the cliche is like, education is the key, but I think in this sector it really is, and to keep people at home and working at the global level. There's also a question of, well, they want to know what a unicorn is, and it's basically a financial term for a startup that reaches $1 billion in valuation, and GitLab is at $6 billion. So it's and I think in a certain amount of years. But the other question is, is it smart to then create a fund in local communities for startups in the IT sector? I'd like to know what you think about that. My own idea is that I think startups are very risky. I mean, most startups fail. So, a company like GitLab is very exciting and everybody jumps in, but it's very difficult. I think my own opinion would be that it would be better to modernize the local institutions, the government and educational institutions, and use and you're creating business for IT services. So you're attracting local demand for that work. And as you pointed out really well, you can automate only so much. I think that the actual requirements of customers are very, very different, and you really have to go and be there and on a regular basis, or even live there, right? And to find out what those requirements are and to deliver and also to maintain. So I think creating demand is really the way to go, as opposed to some idea that we're going to have a lot of startups in a small community.
Yeah, if we
Якщо
speak
можна,
about...
у нас є ще... Да, Ольга, будь ласка. Будь ласка.
Yes, if we speak about like different funds for startups or some advices, really, Timothy, I think that you are totally right. And I would like to say to our, for my Ukrainian colleagues, we should think about that fact that we need to do those things in which we are the best. And if we are not the best in understanding what is startups, what are unicorns, what do we need, how we will choose from one startup or this one or that one. So and it's very risky point. Let's do not start in this, but the first point we can find if we want to develop it. So let's look to the ecosystem we're creating. Because ecosystem started from the very beginning, from schools, doing good schools and doing a lot of cooperation for people, for pupils in those schools. For example, in Kharkiv IT cluster, we do a special game. It's a game, not a game like a computer game, but a role game for small and like children and also elders. It's like kids to IT. We create a startup with them, and we show that IT, it's not only about software engineering. And those types of cooperation you can do in your communities. But the second thing, it's very important. You can find partners to do this. For example, we as a cluster, our projects are open for everybody. We are not like managing that you can be only from Kharkiv or only from Kyiv, or mainly we have a lot of projects online. We also traveling a lot, so you can join us and you can get all those like different services for ecosystem development, and it's for free. It's also very important to understand that for us, it's very, and you can create this ecosystem, small part of ecosystem with some support from our side also.
Well, thank you. We're just about we are out of time. There is a question about how many people, what percentage of engineers in the IT sector are abroad right now? And I think
30%.
30%.
That's very, yes,
Okay.
it's very transparent figures. 30%, we have 30% out of Ukraine now, but they continue to pay taxes to Ukraine. I would like to say that it's very important.
Underlying that is concern about, I would imagine is concern about a brain drain. And my own opinion about, I don't really believe in brain drains. I think people moving abroad and working, even living, for long periods of time or permanently, creates global networks and connections, because people keep connection to their home community and often return, when conditions are favorable for them. And so I would imagine after the war, there will be an influx of those people coming back. And I think being ready for that and integrating folks locally. I mean, they're still working in the cluster, but what else can they do? How can they be integrated in the rebuilding process? I think is a question that is worth thinking about.
Можна
I see the question from Oleg.
І підвести короткий підсумок. Дуже важливо для аудиторії, а в нас більше 50 учасників, це представники невеликих громад. Що треба вимагати від влади або робити самим для того, щоб ми могли працювати і будувати IT-сферу не на умовах ФОПів, а на умовах компаній, які сплачують всі податки? Що треба робити для того, щоб малі громади мали можливість створювати і використовувати потенціал IT-спеціалістів і IT-компаній? І останнє, що ви порадили для України, що треба зробити в першу чергу, щоб по закінченню війни і з можливостях, щоб стати лідером в цій сфері і відійти від кодінгу, підійти до продуктів, до більшого такого професійного системного лідерства в цій сфері? Складне питання, але...
You answered several questions.
Olga, please feel free to answer in Ukrainian.
Yeah, I can answer in English, but just to understand from which part I should start. So let's start from what is important for IT industry.
І подивіться з їхньої позиції, що для них може бути, що для них це важливо, що можна для них запропонувати.
Let me switch to Ukrainian to make it faster, because I understand that we are like translating, yes, so let me switch to Ukrainian. So, перше, з точки зору малих громад. Як я сказала, ми як кластер працюємо з малими громадами. Ми дуже гарно розуміємо, що таке мала громада. І в нас є компанії, які спеціально реєструвалися в малих громадах, і навіть сплачуючи той рівень податків, про який ви кажете, вони забезпечували профіцит в бюджетах цих малих громад. Це є перший поінт. Другий поінт, який важливо дуже зрозуміти. Дивіться, IT – це є вільні люди. От freedom, от є таке слово, свобода, воля. це є в основі, окрім інтелекту, є свобода. Ви не зможете, якщо ви хочете побудувати умовно клітку, систему, в яку ви загоните компанії, воно так не зростає, вони так не розвиваються, вони не прийдуть до громад, де до них вимоги ставлять. І ми не ставимо ніколи до влади вимоги. От ми, як кластер, працюємо з локальними громадами і з їх керівниками, ми працюємо з національним урядом, ми працюємо з міністерствами. Ми не дозволяємо собі ставити людям вимоги, тому що в нас є єдина країна, яку ми розвиваємо, в якій ми хочемо жити. І ми хочемо, щоб діти наші хотіли тут жити, незважаючи на те, де вони сьогодні є. Бо багато у кого діти виїхали, але це не означає, що ми не хочемо, щоб завтра ці діти повернулися і бачили в Україні великі перспективи.
Так що
І
робити,
відповідно,
Ольга,
коли
що робити?
перше, дивіться, по-перше, нам треба для того, щоб що робити, ми можемо, дивіться, просто я бачу, що ми вже перелімітили час.
Ми маємо
Ми
ще декілька
можемо-
хвилин, все окей. Пару хвилин.
Так, тобто просто це ми сьогодні в нас була тема такий огляд IT і його імпакту для екосистеми. Він дійсно великий, для маленьких екосистем також великий. Але для того, що робити, ну, чесно, для мене це може бути окрема лекція про те, яким чином, з чого складається ця екосистема. Знаєте, от як нам вдалося за 10 років побудувати ситуацію, в якій люди з радістю лишалися, і вони навіть зараз в нас повернулася велика частина людей. Тому що ми змогли оцю екосистему побудувати для розвитку бізнесу. І що потрібно робити маленьким громадам. Але другий момент – це нема закритого простору. Тобто ви можете звертатися, ви можете долучатися, ви зможете в тому числі отримувати ті ж самі сервіси про цей хаб, я кажу. Чому? Тому що це є перший варіант, вам не треба нічого створювати, вам просто треба зайти в контакт, і далі вам будуть вже є люди, які будуть вам допомагати. Але з чогось треба почати. Але якщо у вас, дивіться, якщо ви хочете, щоб у вас жили фахівці, і IT-сектор розвивався, рівень освіти, він важливий. Тому що IT-сектор, вони знають, що їм важлива їх освіта, і їм важлива освіта їх дітей. Якщо у вас в громаді для дітей нема доступу до освіти, це точно у вас знаходиться в управлінні. І оцей момент, це дуже важливо, щоб доступ був до освіти і, відповідно, до сервісів, які, базові сервіси ті, що мають бути, і воно почне розвиватися. Просто тут питання того, що дійсно люди почнуть витрачати гроші. От, ми бачимо це на західних регіонах дуже сильно, дуже яскраво.
Дякую. Я хотів би сказати, що ми цими лекціями і цими зустрічами не маємо давати одномоментно за 1,5 години всі відповіді. Але ця зустріч сьогодні, вона надзвичайно важлива, тому що вона відкрила для багатьох цю сферу, важливість сфери для економіки, для того, як це функціонує, і поставила ще більше запитань. Чому я став на бік малих громад і почав говорити з їхньої позиції? Тому що я знаю про потенціал і можливості, і, можливо, треба запланувати буде ще одну зустріч про те, щоб показати, як можна інтегрувати в екосистему громади, які будуть відновлюватися, громади, які будуть розбудовуватися часто з нуля, як можна взаємодіяти з продуктами IT-середовища і IT-економіки, і одночасно з створенням екосистеми мережі продуктів, мережі компаній, мережі середовища самих програмістів. І я задавав питання про штучний інтелект і про інші речі, виходячи з того, що ми маємо чітко розуміти, що нам треба важлива призма саме відбудови, або навіть побудови нового підходу. І IT-компанії мають, так само як ви це робите, об'єднуючись, мають говорити і запитувати в держави, давайте щось змінимо, щоб притягнути як можна більше потенціалу IT-середовища світового для України. Можливо, це буде теж одним з відповідей. Я боюсь, що я взяв на себе в кінці таку демонічну роль, але і Тімоті, і Ольга, дуже вам дякую за те, що ви знайшли час і можливість розкрити цю тяжку і складну для багатьох тему. Ми змушені будемо до цього рухатися. Якщо ми просто пофарбуємо стіни і відремонтуємо латки на дорозі, це не буде відновлення України. Нам треба будувати нову Україну, і без ІТ це неможливо. Усвідомлення в світі ролі України і нових економік в Україні, і України в нових економіках – це дуже важлива річ. Тому я можу вам тільки подякувати за те, що ви знайшли час. Ми кажемо, що ми кожну намистинку додаємо до наших коралів, до того, що ми хочемо з чим прийти як для відновлення, і це дуже важлива роль і функція – розуміти, ставити питання і часто залишатися з питаннями, а не з відповідями. Попробувати шукати відповідь. Ми дуже будемо вдячні, якщо ми зможемо десь, пані Ольга, ще раз згукнути вас до цієї дискусії про те, а що би зробити, що в плани відновлення треба вкласти, щоб IT-середовище, IT-бізнес з'явився в відновлених громадах. Навіть коли це громади, які знаходяться під тиском, зруйновані, під окупацією і так далі, після відновлення що робити? Що перше, друге, третє. Щоб питання IT-бізнесу в відновленні стояло великим, важливим підрозділом, значенням і так далі. Тімоті, дуже дякую.
If I could just say, yeah, thank you. I just want to appreciate the opportunity. We feel very helpless over here. So it's in a small way, if I can help, it's very gratifying. I think that, but I think the secret agenda for me was to open up a channel of communication between the mayors and the cities and the industry. And Olga is the best position to have that channel, to be the other side of that channel. So if you guys can continue the conversation, then I will be even happier than I am right now. So thank you very much. And Olga, thank you so much.
Це величезна можливість. Це велика можливість і честь. Дуже дякуємо вам. У нас буде наступна лекція за 10 хвилин, але я хотів би сказати, що те, що ви даєте бачення, яке виходить за питання поточних проблем і травм, які ми маємо. Ми можемо фантазувати, думати, ставити питання. Дуже дякуємо за це. Вам, Тімоті, вам, Олі.
Thank you very much. And I send a link to our forum of digital transformation. We will speak about digital transformation also of communities. So you are very welcome to join, and you are very welcome to join all our channels, social media, and join our events, next events, because we will hold many events in next year. So we're very open for cooperation and for recovery, for rebuild of Ukraine, because it's a country for our kids. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Дякую. При нагоді зв'яжіться з нами. У нас є ідея створення дитячого наукового парку як частина екосистеми інновацій.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
І до
Thank
наступної
you.
лекції, колеги. Дякую.